I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, November 12th, 2014 to order. May we have a roll call, please, Mrs. Schluter?
Sure. Mr. Alexandrovich?
Here.
Mrs. Evans?
Here.
Mrs. Klein? Here. Mr. Nielsen?
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski?
Here.
I'm here, and Mrs. Larson will be here shortly.
Thank you. Has the meeting been properly posted, Dr. Pats?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 on the agenda is community comment. Per board policy, we allow up to 15 minutes of resident comment. Is there any community comment tonight? Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Good evening. My name is Ileana Smith, and I am a sophomore at Franklin High School and a member of Franklin Teens Fighting Tobacco. We learned recently that the school board amended the school policy that prohibits tobacco at school and school activities to now include electronic cigarettes. So we wanted to thank you so much for taking that step. And we believe that this policy protects us from the harmful effects of the chemicals used in these devices. And we can see that you care about our health. So we are really proud to be Franklin students, and we thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, school board, would you mind coming in front and letting us take your picture with these two students?
Sure.
We're going to put an article in the paper and congratulate you there as well.
And for the record, I'd just like to acknowledge Mrs. Larson just arrived. Sorry.
Oh, Dr. Pats, come, join the. No, I don't. Thank you, though. And Judy, you helped write this. Do you want to be in the picture, too? Well, all right. Oh. I am not the best with cameras, so I'm gonna. Can I just move these? You won't mind. Just get them out of the way. Just one second. All right, ready. 1, 2, 3. And I could see all of your, we'll do just another one just in case. 1, 2, 3. Yay, thank you very much. That's for
Hearing none, we'll move to approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Nielsen, second by Mrs. Witkowski. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Item 5, consent agenda. Would any board member like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. School board announcements. Are there any announcements?
The Franklin High School Pom Squad participated in a competition this past Saturday at Hortonville, and they came home with a first, second, and a fourth place victory. And Franklin Spirit and Prep teams, the community teams, came home with second place trophies. So they did a real nice job. And one of our Franklin wrestlers wrestled at Nationals this past weekend and brought home a third place. Let me think of what his name is. Oh, Noah Larson. That's pretty exciting.
It is.
Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Any other announcements? All right. Thank you. School board calendar. We have a regular board meeting on Wednesday, December 10th, 2014, here at the ECC at 6 o'clock p.m., and a regular board meeting Wednesday, January 14th, 2014, here at the ECC at 6 o'clock p.m.
And just a reminder, we have a special meeting on Monday at 6 o'clock.
And that's the 17th.
Right.
Correct. Thank you. Agenda item 8, we have a Franklin High School Student Senate report, and we have Melissa Pelkey here. Mr. Nowak, would you like to introduce her?
Thank you very much. This is the result of conversations that I had with Mrs. Evans around pulling students into this experience. We talked about the possibility, and what we arrived at is that we would try this on a quarterly basis. As we back up a few minutes to the announcements, every time you guys meet, you talk about things that are happening. Quite often, it's things that are happening at the high school. This is an opportunity for students to, for Melissa to share some of those kinds of things as well. So we have Melissa Pelkey. She's a member of the leadership group of our Student Senate. And she is here to share.
Okay, thank you, first of all. I just wanted to start off with a few things the Student Senate is doing. We do plan all the dances, Spirit Weeks, things like that, but lately we've been doing a lot of teacher appreciation work. We have a teacher appreciation breakfast tomorrow morning, which is we're just bringing donuts to their Thursday meetings, hoping that it'll make them better. And then we do something called Teacher of the Week, which is a program we started last year. We bring slips of paper to a random resource, and we have the children fill out, or children, kids. They're usually freshman resources, so they look little to me. We have them fill out the paper with anything that they want to say. If a teacher's done something exceptional for them, help them anyway. They can be anonymous, or they can put their names on them, and then we collect them, and the teacher who has the most is Teacher of the Week for that week. We have a big floating trophy that goes around to their classroom, and then the teachers do get all the slips that the kids write, even if they don't win, so they get to see the positive feedback that they're getting. NHS is another one that's doing a lot of stuff right now. We have a variety of different service projects going on, so the whole NHS is split up into different groups of service projects. Right now we have a rake rush going on, which is students go to the home of elderly people, help rake. There's also going to be a toy drive around Christmas, and a group who is partnered with Best Buddies is selling the old cafeteria cookies in the cafeteria. They approved it with all of the lunch program and everything, and they are making a fortune off of it. So, another thing with the cafeterias, we recently had the Veterans Day breakfast. Students and staff got together, arranged and organized an event for the veterans in the area, and it was a big success. Onto sports, volleyball had a really successful season in both boys and girls. We had 2 SEC Players of the Year, Ryan Coonan for the boys and Kaylin Koska for the girls. Kaylin Koska was also the Boston Store and Preps Plus Player of the Week. So we had TMJ4 come in, film our practice, interview our coach, and it was a really good exposure for the volleyball program. And then last but not least, cross country also went to state. We did not go to state in volleyball, but cross country went to state in volleyball. They were also the sectional champions, and tennis had 3 girls travel to state. And then last but not least, the fall play, which is starting tomorrow. It's any given day, and it runs through the 15th. And that would be it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
It's like that teacher appreciation, it's like the reverse boss at the middle school.
Yeah.
Where the teachers are being recognized instead of the
Yeah.
students being recognized.
We have a lot of student recognition programs, so we try to do something for them.
Are the cookies nutritional?
Unfortunately, I can't say yes to that. That's probably why they were removed. But they were very, very popular when they were at the high school, and so it's a really great fundraising opportunity because so many kids buy them. I think the first day they did it, they completely ran out. They had to put a cap on how many students could buy. They had someone try to buy 15 at once. So it's a good fundraiser.
That's great. Any other questions? Well, we appreciate you coming, and we welcome you to come quarterly or anytime you want to come. I just want to remind the board that a couple years ago, the board did approve having the Student Senate come to meetings, so I just spoke with Mr. Nowak to remind him of, not remind him, but inform him of that. So we're happy to have you, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 9 is liaison reports. We have personnel and policy. Mr. Nielsen.
Thank you. Yeah, we have another policy coming before us tonight. It's policy number 5351, alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use or possession of drug paraphernalia on school premises. This is an action item. You had this in your board packet. The changes are minimal. We're adding the, in concert with the other changes we made, e-cigarettes and similar electronic smoking devices to the policy. Dr. Miller, anything you want to add to that?
No?
So
Covers
it's
it.
teed up, and I guess we were looking for a motion to approve the changes.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Larson and a second by Mr. Alexandrovich to approve Board Policy 5351 as recommended with the changes. Is there any discussion?
I have a question. 2 weeks ago, when we approved the other policies and added the e-cigarettes verbiage to them, we kept it at e-cigarettes, and now we're adding or similar electronic smoking devices. Do you guys think we should go back and update those from 2 weeks ago in the same manner?
The electronic smoking devices can or cannot have nicotine. You know, it's something to think about. If we want the adults who are on the premises using those devices to be prohibited from doing so, then certainly we could go back and amend those policies as well. So, yeah, we could do that. The other thing we could do is, I was thinking as I was updating this policy, is perhaps combine it with the other policy that we amended that had to do with the intervention for students. So, there, you know, I could take this a step further and update the others to include e-cigarettes and other smoking devices, and then perhaps combine things. But I think for now, it kind of sets, you know, our policy with regard to this so that we can enforce it, but we can always make those changes if you'd like.
I think it's a good point, Melissa, because it's an ordinance, you can't smoke on school property anyway, so it would fit with everything else that we've been doing.
I just think it's best if we're consistent.
Sure, absolutely.
I would agree.
Do we have, would you recommend bringing all those policies back, or just if we,
It would be wonderful if the board could
just consensus?
allow me to do that without bringing them all back. Absolutely.
Do we have consensus to do that, then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving Board Policy 5351 with the recommended changes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. And the next item is item 10, Board Discussion and Action Items. 10A, Youth Option Requests. Mr. Nowak.
Thank you. Tonight, we bring to you 8 youth option requests, and we're seeking approval on them. You have them, I believe, in front of you. I'll run through them quickly. They include Spanish, a Spanish 3001 course from Marquette, an Analytic Geometry and Calculus 3 at MATC, Calculus and Analytic Geometry from UW-Milwaukee, a Calculus 3 course from Marquette, an Introduction to Financial Accounting from UW-Milwaukee, Introduction to Information Technology from UW-Milwaukee, a Differential Equations course at Marquette, and then a Topics Math, Science, Computer Science, and Business Analytics. It's a business course from Marquette. This is similar to the number of youth options courses that have been brought forth in other semesters. We're looking for your approval tonight. Any questions?
We just add to Mike's request that the board should not be surprised as we get more and more of these. It's becoming very popular, and so though you might see 8 tonight, conceivably you could see a lot more at any given time. So we're pretty much required to approve them as long as they meet the criteria, and Mike has done that, so that's why they're here tonight.
I guess I have one question. The topics, math, science, computer science, business analytics, that's one course?
Yes.
Is it, my understanding is the way it works is if we don't carry a similar class, it's eligible for this program. But in looking at some of the new options or new classes that we're going to be talking about tonight, it seems like that might fit one of the other classes. And that's,
Those are more, you're looking at sophomore courses. These are students that are accelerated beyond a sophomore level course.
And that would be for next year.
Right.
Correct.
yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm going to vote no on this, only because I just disagree with us as a district having to fund this. So nothing personal about the classes, but as a policy, I don't support this mission creep of us funding higher level classes, so.
And Dr. Paz, you said we're going to keep seeing more of these. Do you mean outside of the time that we're regularly going to approve them, or you mean?
They're becoming more popular for kids to take advanced
Yeah,
level classes. And as I mentioned, we're required to approve them, you know, but there are districts that have done a lot of these. And I see the word is getting out there that kids can accumulate these college course credits, and it's to their advantage to do that. And many of them have nice career paths that these fit right into, so they work for them.
Do I hear a motion to approve the youth option request as presented?
I would make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Larson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Klein. Any discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please? Mrs. Schleter?
Sure. Mr. Nielsen?
Aye.
Mrs. Evans?
Aye.
I say yes. Mrs. Witkowski?
Nay.
Mr. Alexandrovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Klein?
Aye.
Mrs. Larson?
Aye.
6-1.
Motion carries 6-1, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. The next item is 10B, short-term cash flow borrowing. Mr. Milzer.
Well, we discussed at the previous meeting that we may have to do some short-term borrowing this year. There's 2 points in the year where that might occur. One is end of December, January, the other is in May. When we used to do a short-term borrowing that lasted 7 to 12 months, that would cover both of those. But as I explained last time, we're looking at borrowing the least amount of money possible for the shortest time possible and just repaying it as soon as we can, which keeps, essentially we're transferring from one fund to another, but it keeps that cost as low as possible between the funds. So in order to go ahead with that, I put together a motion that would allow us to do that really as soon as we need it, and then be done with it as soon as we can be done with it, so that, you know, maybe we only have it for a month, maybe we only have it for a week or a month and a half, whatever the minimum is to get by, and then repay it with interest to the fund that provided the money.
Is this one time?
It could be 2 times if it happens again in May. I don't think it will, but this provides for us being able to take care of that as well, the same way.
Because you indicated at the last meeting that come January, this should be resolved, so.
That's the toughest one. In May, I like I said, I don't think we'll have the problem in May, but it depends the way things go. We get most of our money coming in June and July from the state, and as we're projecting it right now, we should be able to make it through May.
Should or shouldn't?
Should be able to. I guess I'm just protecting against that possibility happening. If we get down there and it gets really close, you know, maybe we borrow $50,000 or something like that, something very small in borrowing terms.
That's what I say.
Do you know what the January amount roughly would be?
Could be
ballpark
anywhere
number.
between, you know, 800,000 and maybe 2.5 million, something like that, depending on the way the expenses go and we're able to move things around.
And do we have to charge ourselves interest?
Yes.
We have to,
Mhm.
under what rules are, it's our money. We don't have a board policy that says we have to charge ourselves money.
No, but in talking to the state auditor and our auditors, that's what makes this possible, is that we're taking a loan and paying interest on it. That makes it possible. If we were to just take the money and use it, there are specific statutes against doing that. We wouldn't be allowed to do that.
And if we did not approve this, then what?
Then we would not be able to pay staff or our bills.
We wouldn't have to do a short-term borrowing resolution if the money was in the general fund? Or is that right? As opposed to, what I'm getting at is the money that got moved out. You know, is that money that got transferred into a fund that is earmarked, Fund 46?
Fund 46, okay.
Is that, because that money is in that fund and earmarked for that, is that why we have to do the short-term borrowing? Because if that money wasn't moved and it was sitting where it was.
Yeah, if we hadn't used any of that funding, we wouldn't have to borrow anything. But again, going back to that timing and the situation at the time for being able to move actual fund balance without going over budget, not affecting our aid, and all of the factors that came together at the time made that a good idea, and it's still a good idea. I mean, if this costs us $200 or $400 in interest for that period of time, it was well worth it to do that, rather than having those other negative effects in the future.
You said that you crafted a motion already? Would you mind reading it? Could he read it to us so we would have an idea?
It's in here, I can read it.
Oh, okay.
We're looking for a motion if the district's operating expenses are expected to exceed the revenue available to pay such expenses at any time during the 2014-15 fiscal year, the school board authorizes the Director of Business Services to borrow money from the district funds that have an available balance and to repay the borrowed money plus interest to the fund providing the short-term loan.
And that, I guess that assumes by year end, or?
Well, definitely by year end, but it would be, the whole point is to keep it very short. So we wouldn't need it at year end.
Would there be any problem coming back to the board each time you needed to do this, if we just approve it for one time?
I think it would be better if I just notify the board when it's happening, and when we get close, I could tell you it's going to happen again or it's not going to happen again. But being able to kind of do that when we need to without having to prepare for a meeting and say, well, possibly, and maybe you should vote again, it's just kind of cumbersome when the whole tenet of this is to be flexible and to be able to move the money and get it back quickly to keep our expense from one fund to another as low as possible.
And the expense is really just repaying interest into another account, so there really is no.
Right. It doesn't go out of the district. And we're saving the legal fees that we would pay on a regular borrowing just to have the attorneys do all of the paperwork, which is a couple $1,000.
So we put some of the blame for this, I'm calling it blame, I don't know if that's the right word, on the Fund 46. How much is the 0% tax levy increase to blame? Any?
No, because we won't get any of those funds until January.
And is the transfer made between funds as an expenditure from fund to fund, or is it just a transfer? Or is it
It's a transfer.
Transfers out. You don't pay the other fund.
No, the interest coming back would be a payment to that
As an
fund, but
expense.
otherwise it's just a transfer.
Transfer.
Do you have a fund that you're necessarily targeting? I would assume it's Fund 46.
No, either 39 or 49, either debt service or construction.
When is construction expected to wrap up? January? Would there be?
Dr. Pats?
As we informed the board in February,
Would any board member like to entertain that motion?
I would make that motion.
I would second.
We have the motion as I read by Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
seconded by Mr. Alexandrovich. Is there any other discussion?
And then, Jimmy, you would inform us then when this occurred?
Right. I'll let you know the amount, the interest rate at the time that we'd pay, but, I mean, it will most likely be somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.08%. So it's a good deal.
I would just appreciate you notifying the board if you're going to do it more than the one time.
Oh, absolutely.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. And then agenda item 11, reports and presentations. We have the instructional services report, new course approvals. Dr. Dessert?
Yes. I'm going to turn over to Alan in just a second. I want to thank him. This was his maiden voyage working with instructional services and did a fabulous job meeting with Mike, Selmer, and me early one morning last week. And before Alan takes over, I just want to introduce, we have guests in the audience tonight that are here to answer questions, should you have any related to the new courses. So obviously you know Nick and Mike, and Susie Rock is joining us because she works with the science group. Nick works with Inroads, and Mike works with everybody. Susie has Chad Philippi with her. Chad can kind of wave. He's our science department head, so we're happy to have Chad. He's done some really heavy lifting around this with his department and some great work, so we're really excited about that. And then we're really excited, we have 4 Inroads staff members with us tonight. We have Diane Luddig hiding in the back. She's the business strand. And we have Pat Gain, he is the environmental science person. And we have Margaret Guterand, who is biomed. And then we have Amy Lester, who is Inroads English. And so we're happy they could join us because sometimes it's nice for you to hear from them if you have questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Alan, and then he'll turn it back to me when he's ready.
You all received this report. As I went through it, the second page, which outlines all the courses, we started with 18 courses, we're ending with 18 courses. There are 2 that are being eliminated. Astronomy and geology, they're being eliminated because there just wasn't a lot of interest in those courses. If you look down below, the replacing existing courses, we're replacing advanced physics with physics, and basically we're eliminating the word advanced. I think Wendy was describing it as when people saw it as advanced, they thought this was for all the smart kids, and so nobody else could sign up for those courses, and that's not the intent of these courses. On the next page, something that I thought was really nice, about a third of the way down, it starts out with what your future plans beyond high school, or what are your future plans beyond high school, and then it shows, do you want to just go into the workforce, you're going to college, whatever you want to do, here's what will help you in the sciences area. And other than that, I read through all the descriptions, and they look like wonderful courses that I would never pass anymore. Wendy, you want to take it?
Sure, I'll just summarize a little bit. Alan did a great job of, he had a lot of good questions, and so he was able to kind of give you a really good background. If anyone needs the chart, we do have it here in case anyone wants it with them. Just a few slides of some things that Chad wanted us to represent, and Inroads. So Inroads, quickly, we're just expanding to year 2 of the program. And Dr. Pats, you have an Inroads update coming up in
Yeah, next month's meeting, Mike Nowak and some staff members will be presenting an update on the Inroads project.
Right. So you will be hearing how it's going at this point, but we have to begin preparing for next year. So you will see we're adding 3 courses to the Inroads area to allow us to continue to move the work forward. And we're working on ensuring that, again, they meet the needs of what is trending in professions beyond high school. So You'll see a heavy emphasis on the biomedical sciences, and if you look at the recent U.S. News and World Report, top 100 jobs, you just look at the first 10, 7 of them require some type of a medical background, all varying levels, everything from a physician to entry-level veterinary courses. So it's all kinds of medical, so we wanted you to be aware of that. So that's really it. Those are the courses. They're 3, and they're just an extension of all of the freshman level courses. So they'd be moved into the sophomore level inroads experience. So I don't know if you have any questions on that. We have the 4 teachers here to answer any for you. Okay.
I have one question. Will anyone be going to the state convention with inroads at all?
The school board state convention?
Yeah.
Not this year. We didn't, it's past the deadline to get courses in, so not this year. But that's a good suggestion for the future. She's volunteering you to present to all the superintendents and board members in the state.
I just had a quick question. So
Yep.
those aren't courses, those are just, like you said, areas of study, or are these courses?
Well, those are the strands, and then we're adding 2 strands in 15, 16. You're right, the 3 courses are listed on the document that you had. So they're Inroads English, Seminar Experience 2, Introduction to Global Business. Those are the 3 extensions. Thanks for clarifying. And then I put this on here because Alan liked it so much, we wanted to feature it. And I think the reason Alan likes it and the reason the science department likes it is, if you notice, thankfully as a board in 2008, you approved us moving from 2 credits to 3 credits, and we were forecasting, and we did a good job, because in 2013, DPI required the 3 science credits. So we were ahead of the curve, and the students were already prepared and working towards those 3 science credits. And why Alan liked this and why the department thinks this is a valuable chart is science, some people are science phobic, but you have to take science to acquire your Franklin diploma or any high school diploma. So we wanted them to understand what would work best for you based on your forecast for your own future. And so that's why this is here, because science has a lot of math emphasis, and that scares students off. So we wanted to assure them we have opportunities to meet all students' needs. And Alan mentioned this, and the only thing that I wanted to speak to here was when working with the science department and Chad as the leader, he worked with his group, and their goal was to honor the students, honor the standards, and honor the career trends. And by honoring the students, Alan did a really good job of explaining. In 2008, when we brought the review to you, we tiered the courses. So we had a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3, and we thought, the science department thought that was a fabulous idea, so students could enter at the tier they felt comfortable, but we didn't realize there would be a stigma around the tiers. So students were uncomfortable entering the tiers because they thought they were too accelerated or they were remedial. So when we put the courses together this time, we still have tiered opportunities for students, but we went back to the traditional names because it was misleading. So students will still be able to enter the courses at an accelerated level if data dictates that, or if their high school, their middle school science teachers suggest that they move forward. So they'll look at how they're performing in the course, they'll look at data that makes sense around science, and they'll make recommendations to students, and then obviously to families that they should consider a more accelerated science track. And if not, then they'll pursue the regular physics and chemistry. And then,
So are you saying then that they would either take the regular physics or advanced placement physics?
right.
So,
Right.
okay.
A student that is advanced doesn't need regular physics. They would have the skills to move right into AP, the advanced. Is that correct? Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, not advanced. They take.
The AP classes, you still would have to take physics, chemistry, bios. And those courses are kind of designed to prepare students to take those AP classes.
Can you speak to the, I was mixing it up, we have foundation science courses for the,
So the physical science course would be like the tier 1 physics course then. If the physical science would need, students need a life science to graduate, they need a physical science to graduate, and then they need an earth and spaces to graduate.
And that's not changing, correct?
No, so then that physical science would satisfy the need of that area that students would need to.
But students wouldn't typically take physical science and physics, or physical science and chemistry, it would be one or the other.
it would be depending
So
upon.
that hasn't really changed.
Right.
But to take the AP course, you have to take so you have to take like 2 years of the area. If you want to be specialized in chemistry, you would take chemistry and then advanced placement chemistry.
Yep.
And you're making the kids doubling up down the road, you know, as juniors and seniors in terms of science courses.
And guidance, the nice thing about this work was guidance was in on the work the entire time, so they understand how to guide students so they can acquire as much science as they would need for their plans in high school. And in the other area we always look at, Mike Zelmer coined the phrase curriculum drift, so we use that often. And we look at the standards. Since we reviewed, the state standards have remained the same, but the national standards, the next generation science standards come out. And in Franklin, we always look at many standards documents. We don't just look at one document because that's limiting. So what we realized from the state standards and then the national standard document was we were more considering, I'm just looking at the exact title here, Earth and Space was an elective opportunity, and Alan pointed out that we dropped those 2 courses because students weren't taking them. When they reviewed the standard, they realized, or all the standards, our students weren't getting required standards. You couldn't receive the knowledge you needed in a physics or a chemistry course around Earth and space. So that's why we're adding that in as a required course, because we need our students to be exposed to the standards that are in the document. So there's a complete strand in the Wisconsin standards, and then it's backed up by the next gen standards. So we felt students weren't choosing to take that, so we needed to make it one of the 3 required courses for students. So that is a bit of a change. Anything else to?
And they would take that generally when? Or?
Mostly they're.
Mostly their junior year. I mean, at the end of the day, when a student graduates from Franklin, they should have a life science, a physical science, and an earth space science course. And how you get your life science, that could be the lower level life science, or it could be one of those biology classes. Physical science, you can take the lower level physical science, or you can take physics or chemistry. And then the earth space science class is the earth space science class. So junior year typically is that's when they'll take that. This summer and last spring, we had some teachers going to different conventions, and they actually met with the next generation science standards designers, and they suggested that the earth space science, be offered at an upper level class, as a junior, because the biology and the physical science, those skills lead into the earth space science. So that's kind of why we put it where we did. However, students, that might be their interest, and they might want to start with that. It just kind of depends on what their skill levels are. So that's where, talking to the middle school and talking to the guidance counselor to see what, where they're at science-wise or where they're at math-wise will determine where we place them in their track.
And my only final comment is the honoring the career trends. You'll see the new courses have that medical bend, and as I shared earlier with inroads, we understand that inroads isn't for all students, and respect that there are many students not in inroads who will need sciences in their career college path beyond high school. So we need to ensure that we have inroads courses to allow us to move that strand forward, but a science department that really honors that medical area and some of the prereqs to help them in their college, 2 or 4 year college experience, or when they move right into the workforce. So a lot of the new courses are honoring them monitoring careers. And That's all I have to say unless Alan has more to add or the teachers do.
I have a question then. So I'm looking at the new ones it's all the biomedical ones then, and they all are tagged as Project Lead the Way. So is that just a new area? I always thought of Project Lead the Way as just engineering, but now we have more of a medical focus.
Project Lead the Way actually has 3 strands. They used to have one in engineering. The next was biomedical, and there's a 4-course sequence that you see here in science. And then the third actually is computer science. They have a computer science course that we offer.
We have that also. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Okay, and the math question is these are also tagged as ASTC, which I see as Advanced Standing Transcripted Credits, so that means that they are accepted at higher secondary programs? Or, I mean, you have actually checked with secondary programs that do accept these?
Kids get a transcripted credit. Most often it's been through engineering school. MSOE, but there are other sites across the country that do the same thing. There's Duke is one, Indiana schools. There's a number of them.
So is it dependent upon the higher institution, or are there standards and remedial standards you can expect to be accepted? I mean, how do you put that tag on here, I guess? How do you know this stuff?
Well, they're transcripted through MSOE, so MSOE basically is saying we grant that course as one of ours in essence. Maybe a way to look at it.
And it's like any other college course, if it's transcripted, some of the university will accept it, some may not.
So not METC or UWM or?
Well, they may, but there are affiliations. Project Lead the Way has affiliations with a number of schools. In the case of MSOE, is where a lot of the training is done, so therefore that's why it's transcribed through MSOE. It's like a partnership, if you will. And I want to say there's probably, probably 6 to 8 schools in the country that sort of serve that purpose.
But many schools accept them because it's a reputable course that's determined to have regular and meet college standards. So you could go to UWM and they could accept them all, but the student has to apply for the acceptance each individually.
I just wanted to add too that the biomedical series, the 4 courses, while we've referenced them as being inroads related, we are also giving kids outside of inroads the opportunity to take those courses as well.
One other question. On page 2, after the biomedical interventions class, it lists 2016-17 in parentheses. Is that just a relic from prior planning, or we're not offering it this coming school year, we're offering it the following?
That's a really good point we can bring up. We'll have kind of almost 2 groups of kids that can choose to go through the old track of science courses and then the new track that's coming in next year. So all of the new courses won't be needed right away next year. So to honor the workflow for the teachers, it's very difficult to design and implement multiple new courses. So we're tiering them in over a 2-year span.
Biomedical innovation is the capstone course of that 4-course progression.
Okay.
So that's really the first opportunity students will have had to go through that progression. So that's like the one course that you don't want students to necessarily take unless they've gone all the way through that program. Sort of the exception to that we made this year was that we brought in medical interventions because we felt for our upperclassmen it was a great opportunity for those kids who were interested in health-related careers to take a shot. They hadn't had those initial courses, but we felt it was important too.
Okay. So this approving it tonight will allow our staff to start preparing and creating a course, but we're not actually going to let students register for it. Thanks.
Looking for a motion to approve the instructional services new course approvals. Do I hear that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Schlueter. Is there any discussion?
I guess I have to ask, any budget impact in approving these? Do we have funds to
It
buy
would be,
curriculum?
it would be covered within my curriculum budget, so there wouldn't be an extended need of funds. It would just be the existing budget is allocated towards the new courses that have to be designed.
Any additional staff training required, or?
It's all within the budget of
Right,
professional development.
Right. There always is. They need to have time to learn the new delivery model, and that's all, like Dr. Pat said, it's built within the budget to handle that.
I'd just like to make one comment. First of all, Chad, I appreciate your leadership in this, and the four of you. I'm really pleased that our science programming is upping their game, so to speak. I think we have outstanding teachers in that area, and I think, like many other areas in the high school, we're just continuing to elevate, and it's a tribute to all of you as teachers, and we've had a lot of discussions, I know, in this building regarding all of our curricular areas, and science is one that we believe very strongly in. And so we appreciate not only the work you're doing, but the fact that you're going to keep pushing the envelope to the edge a little bit. So thank you, all of you, for what you're doing.
Also, I just wanted to mention, there's two I know from Eco Club and the advisor for Eco Club and robotics. I mean, so they do extracurricular as well as their regular, and they're still here. So I just wanted to say that.
We got some good people.
Yeah, I have seen some wonderful photos about some of the pictures.
Bird watchers?
Yeah. I'm feeling really deficient in my science area, like is there any makeup I can?
And we thank you all for coming here tonight, too. And I also want to say thank you for including the discontinued classes in the report.
The chart was very easy to follow.
Yeah.
Whoever put that together.
Alan's masterful. His ideas were amazing.
Nice job, Alan.
You whispering? Are you whispering? Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Nielsen and a second by Mrs. Schlueter. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And then next we have item 11B, Superintendent's Report.
Just a couple of things. The construction continues to go well. We just had another meeting this morning. We'll be moving into the new art areas by, I think it's Friday. We'll have most of it in there. A few little glitches here and there. We did have an issue with one of the electrical contractors that we no longer are utilizing, so we have a different contractor coming up to finish that little area, and then we have a smaller area in the back that we'll be working on, and we'll be sending that out to bid. So it shouldn't create any sort of a problem for us, but the change needed to be made. We will take, I don't know how the board, I'll throw some dates at you as far as I'd like you to see the work that's been done so far. As I'd mentioned, the back part, F and G, is that what we're talking? F and G won't be done until February, but they're going to start demolition in those areas, I think this Friday too, aren't they?
Yeah, in the week leading up to Christmas, they're really
Okay.
leading up to Thanksgiving.
So anyway, there'll be a mess back there, but I think you'll really like to see the main entrance and the furniture and the art areas and so on and so forth. It's pretty cool, we think, anyway.
Is back there where the art used to be, or what?
Yeah, the old art class.
Oh, back there is, okay.
So I'll put some dates out there where we could maybe take an hour to go some night and meet over there and do like we have been. Regarding board goals, Debbie and Amy and I met on this past week, and we asked Bill Foster to come join us. If you remember, Bill is from School Perceptions. We simply wanted Bill to come in and give us some ideas. We told him what we were looking at. He read our board goal. We told him what we were thinking. And we wanted to try to get his sense on what would be a good timeline to address a survey if we did one and some of those other things. And what it came down to, however, was Debbie and Amy both agreed that what we need to do is make an agenda item on the December 10th board agenda, if that's okay with the board, to address just that board goal in terms of how we're going to be moving forward, some of the recommendations that we have to bring forward to the full board. Because as we move forward, we all need to be on the same page, we all need to be talking the same language, and we all need to be able to hear what we were thinking in terms of a survey, and if there's other thoughts that we want to incorporate into that, so as we move forward, we don't have to backtrack on anything. So if it's okay with the entire board and Janet and so on, we'll look at that as a board item that we can dedicate some time to. And we'll get some preliminary information to you, some bullet points ahead of time, and then we'll just keep it open for discussion as we move forward. So that's all I have.
Are there any questions or comments? And consensus for the agenda item for the Okay, thank you. And then we have 11C, Treasurer's Report. Are there any questions or comments on the Treasurer's Report? Last agenda was left off, so there could be questions from last time.
Is everybody aware that it is in the library at this point? And if you do review the cash balance report, it's pretty evident that we need to short-term borrow. If you review the balances, and also Jim added prior year information, which I think is useful. And everybody also is aware that we do have the check register still out there in the library.
Mm-hmm.
And hope you look at them. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. Item 12, board meeting debriefing. Are there any comments? I only have that again. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate having you. And we appreciate our student coming, so thank you for coordinating that. Okay, item 13, future agenda items. Professional Development Report, December 10th. The Friends of Franklin Recognition, December 10th. Building and Grounds Report, December 10th. Inroads Update, December 10th. Superintendent's Self-Evaluation, December 10th. And then we'll also have the board goals on December 10th. And an audit report, January 14th. And a technology update on January 14th. So
I also would like to suggest another one. We do have the WSB resolutions that we might want to take a peek at
yeah, we'll,
prior to the convention.
So I believe, because that's in in January 21st or so, we can do that in January, I would think. That'll work. And Melissa, you'll be bringing those in. Linda will have some input on that also, because she's been coordinating the resolutions. So I think that would probably be good, because they're so packed on December 10th.
Yeah, that's going to be a long agenda.
Yeah.
One possible suggestion, when do you think would be a good time to bring that back, that personal financial literacy?
Might check
January
in
a
with
good
the
time?
department, so.
Mike, when do you think would be a good time to bring back personal financial literacy?
Would be, I'm sorry, what's the question?
Personal financial literacy, we were going to look into that and
Yeah,
talk to some of the high school staff, see what it'd be like about getting the
when we
reality
brought-
days.
Yeah, when it came up at the last time here at this table, Wendy mentioned about, didn't want to, take that over to the high school right in the beginning of the year, because
Right.
they're just, while a lot of irons in the fire. But I did at one of the release days meet with Diane Luddig briefly and her department in the business, because they're the ones who do Reality Day. And it's a group that you don't have to talk about the value of this with very much. So it moves quickly to logistics. And we talked a little bit about logistics, about the need for, if we're going to have more people involved, to have lots more volunteers, because they could include more kids now than they have, but they don't have enough volunteers. And then the other piece that comes to mind and can't be forgotten about is that in the current format, kids do quite a bit of research in their classes before the Reality Day. They research a career, they understand the salary ranges, they make some decisions about lifestyle. And so if there's kids who are not in the classes that would participate, that has to be modified or somehow worked through. And so we
Would
do
February be a good month for that?
Pardon me?
February or January meeting or February to just kind of get an update? on-
When is Reality Day scheduled this year, Diane?
Beginning of May.
Yeah, beginning of May, yeah. And so, we have to.
I would say
we have to work with
February, we can talk to the department more to find out about those questions. Just allow them to get through first semester and.
Sure.
Yep, so we can talk.
Okay, I'm good with that.
All right,
Thank you.
All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, We are adjourned at 6:55.